All right, ready?
Almost like, am I ready? Yeah, I'm ready.
That's not the line. I'll kill you if that's our first tagline.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
This is so I'm watching this show. This is so I'm watching American Horror Story. Double feature. Red Tide. Episode 4.
Blood Buffet.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
My literal first note just says, boys getting butt fucked on front porches like some sort of perverted Norman Rockwell.
You know, back in the day, you'd walk downtown and you'd see boys getting butt fucked on front porches like some kind of perverted Norman Rockwell painting. It was true homosexual Americana.
Look.
I couldn't get that out.
Sounds okay to me.
Dennis O'Hare delivered it like it was like...
like it was Shakespeare.
I loved this episode.
So good.
This was everything that I like from American Horror Story. And also, they're like earning the stuff that I was a little bit confused by.
Agreed. Okay. The one thing I'll say is I was going to let them have the weird fashion on the pale people. I was just going to let it happen.
He made a throwaway joke about like AIDS chic, like blah, blah, blah. And then this episode, like a full 2 episodes later, I was like, oh, no, literal AIDS chic.
Yeah.
Like, Billy Lord is like, these are the clothes left over from the gays who died in the 80s and 90s. And I was like...
Yeah, I was just going to let them have their off-color joke, but they went and then, like, made it make sense. And I was like, all right, man.
Yeah.
You did it.
I don't know. I just really wasn't... Again, we're not done, so it's too early to declare victory.
No, we're not done, but I will say that I think, as much as I love Lily Rabe, and Finn Wittrock and everybody that's in this episode was devoid of both of them. And I honestly think it worked in his favor.
Well, sure.
Yeah. It was like a deep dive into the like inception of the pill.
So I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this how I mean it.
Okay.
But I think my thing with American Horror Story, because I frequently, I love it, but I frequently think that each season eventually falls to pieces.
Sure.
And it feels like what it is when I'm watching it. It feels like a group of people were sort of locked in a room and forced to come up with something under a certain amount of time, and just like consequences or like continuity be damned. They just sort of go. And so it has a way of feeling like we are introduced to a world, and then we just sort of watch this world collapse into like
a dying star.
Yeah, but like, well, I was gonna say bigger and noisier, and I feel like that's actually pretty big and noisy.
So big and noisy.
And so it's sort of like you get the sense that this was just like this was just sort of nothing before it started, and then just total chaos. And again, I can hear myself rambling.
I sort of understand what you mean. You mean like the storyline in general was nothing until it started, and then it devolved into chaos as soon as.
And I'm sort of like, who are these people? Who were these people before this? Like, how did we get to this place? Like,
so that's, I guess, what this episode was mostly doing.
And I enjoyed it. It wasn't, because another thing is a lot of times those types of episodes where we do flashbacks where we find out that's why they call her that. It feels really shoehorned. Like, it feels really like. But this was sort of like. There was something sort of fascinating to me that this town existed and was weird before Doris and Harry showed up, and that it's not just sort of weird. It just feels
not weird, but as a byproduct of being in a Ryan Murphy production, it's weird anyway.
A lot of times they're like, well, now's the part of the show where it goes off the rails, and I'm like, that's fine, I guess. But this actually feels like I'm watching sort of like a tacky, trashy, like...
Sure. And it's also like this town was already weirdly off the rails, but it was like low key off the rails.
And it was heading this way.
Yeah, but it's only once like Finn Wittrock and his daughter took this pill that now we're in an actual off the rails place. But I also feel like,
based on what they gave us in this episode, that was going to happen regardless. Even if Finn and Doris didn't show up, we were heading this direction.
I think it would have taken longer if it weren't for Alma.
It would have been different.
Yeah.
But there was just, like I said, I still don't feel satisfied. Like, I still don't think I fully explained myself. But it's like when I'm watching a story, I don't want to feel like I'm watching a story. I want to actually get lost in it.
Sure.
And a lot of times I can just see the machinations. I can just see the television of some of these Ryan Murphy productions. And I'm like, they're just throwing shit for the sake of throwing shit. And like,
I feel less that way about this season. Yeah.
And
I know we're only 4 episodes in, but we are 2/3 of the way through this section.
And I just feel so much better about so many of the characters. I'm imagining that tuberculosis Karen is going to have some arc in the next 2 episodes. But even, I mean, so much as Billy Lord's had maybe 2 scenes, but even that, I just sort of feel more like she belongs in this story.
So that's the thing is, like, I honestly don't even care if Sarah Paulson is in another episode of this. I would.
Well, this was the most I liked Karen.
Yeah, but I also would just be fine if that was it. I'm being so sincere in like a real character-based way. Like, because it's like you said, it's such a weird thing where everybody in this season feels fleshed out in a way that like not everybody does in other seasons. And if I'm being perfectly frank, I think American Horror Story has a tendency to over-explain the horror weird parts of itself sometimes. And I am perfectly happy to have some open-ended shit in this season because I'm enjoying it so much. I would much rather have like a little bit of mystery when we're over, as opposed to like tying everything up in a bow and like, that's why they call her tuberculosis Karen. And it's like, no, I don't need that.
Well, there was something about the chemist, and maybe this was Angelica Ross. She has such a presence, and
she's so hot.
I've liked her in things. I think that she worked less in 1984. I think she's working better here.
I agree with that for sure.
But
her hair is better, 100%.
Everything she wore was amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Just sort of like her arrival in this town, it just sort of was making sense in a way that I've come to not feel like I've come to not expect from American Horror Story, where I was like, oh, there was a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end. The science is just working for me. It's making
like Jurassic Park.
No, I think it's even a little bit better. I mean, they said sodium, they said magnesium, they said potassium. It's making enough sense that it's like, I'm just so happy we're not doing that 10% of your brain thing, because I think that's so stupid.
Sure.
And
it's like targeting a specific part of your brain.
Well, and they're at least making an attempt to like in a layman's, just sitting back, having no medical knowledge. It just sort of makes sense that like this, they're explaining that like she went into it about how like talent comes from a certain part of your brain, and that she's engineered this drug to sort of open those pathways.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it really depletes the chemicals. And the best way to get them back is from like raw human blood. And it just sort of makes sense. And even the like, when we start off, like when we're first given the whole like, oh, the people who are talented thrive, the people who aren't turn into monsters. That sounds like magic. But the way she was explaining this, I was like, it's kind of like how people often say zombies are like the most believable.
Oh, 100%. I'm more scared of zombies than anything else.
It just kind of makes sense to me, where I was like, oh, and I think it's because we're dealing with like brain, chemicals and stuff. And we're well, because I mean, even something as commonplace as like antidepressants and stuff. It's like people make jokes, but it's like there's disclaimers where it's like may cause ideas of suicide. It's like, well, that's why I'm taking.
That's why I'm trying to take.
How do you not know how this product works? And so this is tapping right into that. We're frequently talking about how beautiful the show is. It still is. The scene of Angelica Ross as the chemist when she was chemisting.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. All of the equipment was gorgeous, because you even said, you're like, that shit is so expensive.
Those like perfectly
round
beakers are so expensive.
And the liquid going through, and like the lighting it was so gorgeous. And the color on her skin, the way that they had like the blue and the red, her skin was sort of reflecting it and like partially absorbed. It was
very along the lines for me of Yetiri Badaki in season 1 of American Gods. I mean, it's unreal how, and you're right, they were doing the most with her lighting, but I think it's because she's supposed to be very glamorous and like mysterious and but it's, I mean, gosh, she's so hot. And her hair, the blonde like natural hair, oh my god.
Well, and just sort of finding out that like Mickey's in cahoots with her, it's like I think I do like that all of this stuff is sort of connected in a way that, like, I mean, one would hope or think that these things are connected, but they are, and I was satisfied by the connections.
Yeah.
I
remain obsessed with Macaulay Culkin.
It's just like, it's so weird because he's not really doing anything challenging.
No.
He's just interesting to look at.
But
and
it also
just
it doesn't feel like he's being Macaulay Culkin either.
No,
like,
he feels like Mickey the Meth.
Yeah, he's doing
boy whore.
something. It just doesn't feel like what it doesn't feel like too much. I don't know. I think the Culkins are, maybe the Culkins are taking the pill. They are all so talented. Well,
and I mean, I'm sold on his sort of like trepidation because he's like he's like intrigued by it, but also afraid of it.
Yeah.
And they just sort of, especially him and Tuberculosis Karen, they have this real like minion quality thing happening that I'm enjoying, and I really like it. I love Frances Conroy, and I don't know where it comes from, and I feel the need to sort of explain it. But I do honestly just find her captivating.
She super is. Yeah.
There's something, she is a older woman, and she is probably what people would refer to as a handsome woman.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about her that even when she was being like this sort of meek, pathetic thing, I just was so invested in this character.
You can't take your eyes off her.
And her...
It's ridiculous. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I haven't even watched 6 Feet Under for them. I've watched like a handful of episodes, but not the whole thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm with you. You cannot look away.
Her weird George Washington porn.
I cannot tell a lie. I cannot tell a lie. Had he whispered those false words to innocent little Penelope when he drove himself into her? Had he lied about loving her? Lied about her being the only one? Lied about never lying? The only thing that distracted her from these thoughts was the soft skin of Penelope's breasts and belly, as Martha slowly kissed her way down to the hairy warmth between the young maid's legs.
Because
Martha's cherry tree.
But the thing is,
cherry tree, I get it now. Because there's a dude on the cover, so I was thinking it was a hot guy, but it's not. It's Penelope the maid. I get it now.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure, a George Washington.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's the sheer fact that she's not afraid of the material in ways that so many people can be, and even some of the like the lesser skilled people, they're certainly not afraid of it, but this material can wear these people versus the other way around.
100%.
But she was so absolutely committed to this. Once you take the absurdity of George and Martha Washington porn out of it, like half decent dime store erotica.
Yeah,
it was just so, I don't know.
The literal worst part about it was that Martha found one of George's wooden teeth in Penelope's bed.
But that's what made it so, that's what made it George Washington porn.
Of course.
Without that, you're just slapping a name on something. Course. And we hear tell of a threesome with George and Martha and Benjamin Franklin because she's always found portly men to be erotic.
I've always found heavyset men to be very appealing.
And we're spending so much time in these scenes that there's a part of me that's like, do we need this? And there's a part of me that's like, shut up. It's amazing. We definitely do.
Yeah.
And just her like, we've mentioned before, there's a lot of things you can say about Ryan Murphy and Ryan Murphy Productions, good and bad. One of the things that we think he excels at is the writing he does for women, and particularly
women of a certain age.
Older women.
Because honestly,
there's a wealth.
Even Sarah Paulson is still in her 40s, but that used to be a death sentence in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And like this
for her to be the show, the muse, like
this is getting Sarah Paulson other work, is all I'm saying. It's ridiculous.
And it just like there's just such a because that can also be pandering, and frankly he does, and his productions do verge into pandering, but there's also just something so fascinating and beautiful about seeing Billy Lord sort of help Frances Conroy turn over a fresh leaf.
Yeah.
What's motivating the new look?
I always thought that a woman should pick a look before she turns 40 and stick with it. For men, it's 50, and I did that. But lately I've been thinking that that's a rule for people with no second act.
Yeah.
And she's talking about like the new style. And again, it's so glamorous. It's so like, I loved it. Evan Peters, I bought it. Yeah. I guess first of all, I didn't know Provincetown is real. And I think it is pretty gay.
Because Scarlet Envy has been there
she's been cavorting
the past couple of weeks.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, it's real. Provincetown, like Massachusetts or Connecticut or something.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And so I guess it does have like a gay history, kind of like, Key West or San Francisco or what have you. But I like that we were borderline in the Murder, She Wrote episode where it's this like gay bar that's like staffed by straight men.
Yeah, there's only straight people. All of the drag performers except for Eureka, credited as David Huggard in this episode. Everybody else was just a straight man doing drag.
Because it was the only way to make money in the town.
It's better than painting houses or stealing from my mom.
It was funny and it was a take. Evan Peters was a drag queen named Patio Furniture.
Hilarious.
It is hilarious, but the furniture it's very Heidi in closet.
Maybe that was the joke.
I thought she should have thrown an accent and gone kind of like closet or
sure.
Instead of be like Heidi Inda, Heidi Inda closet. No.
Well, I did also though like Crystal Decanter, which
that's like I think
Eureka's
that's a pretty
name.
standard.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before, but Evan Peters, I wasn't entirely sure what he was doing. Are we meant to think he was also straight? Because he was only half committed to that number. I mean, he was definitely he wasn't not committed.
Evan Peters?
Yeah,
I think Austin is straight.
Okay.
I think Austin will kind of do whatever.
I don't know. It was a choice, the performance. Like I said, it wasn't bad. Like he was committed to it, but it was also a very weird performance that it's like given the like half-hearted nature of his drag and then this really strange drag performance. Because he was just
the
sort
Magic
of
Man.
Yeah, I don't know. It was fun. Again, beautiful. There were these gorgeous lamps that you never did see. There were smaller, like they all were Tiffany, but there were like smaller ones on the table that I think your eye was going towards because there were bigger ones and they had like lighthouses and sailboats around them.
Okay.
But I loved it. And Belle Noire takes him under her wing and they go and eat the
other drag queens, except Eureka gets away to the cemetery and then gets eaten in the cemetery by the first pale man,
which we've gotten an explanation for everything except for the teeth at this point.
His teeth,
they're sharp. Remember all the pale men had the sharp teeth. So I guess because you made a joke about, you're like, what is Billy Lord moonlighting at like doing charity dental work for these meth heads? And
maybe
I'm prepared for that to like without irony
case,
be the plot of the fourth or fifth episode.
Yeah, that's like honestly the only thing that's holding me up right now from being like 100% into the season. I'm like very close to being there, but that I'm just like, how did he get sharp teeth?
Well, they've answered everything else in a way that now they have to answer the teeth.
Yeah.
I would have let it go had they not explained everything else.
I agree.
And you were really kind of, because there's a big thing with American Horror Story for me where it and certainly as the show has progressed, it's very rarely actually scared me. And a lot of times, any times that it's ever scary is usually early on once you've gotten used to the world. Yeah. But every so often it'll ping something. And you were really sort of like horrified by the descent that this like lounge singer went into because he was like vegan and
really sad.
You didn't
kind of pathetic and sad. This poor guy like doesn't know what's happening to him. He was just trying to be talented. And, like,
but I mean, I think we needed it to make the stakes.
I get it. It
matter.
Just is, like, that's the stuff to me. That's the horror is like the more psychological and like emotional stuff. It's like, yeah, they're killing people and eating their blood, and I'm like, big whoop. But then he's like, I'm a vegan and a pacifist, and I'm like, oh.
And she's being so clinical with him.
Well, she's like running an experiment.
Yeah.
She's running like a legit experiment. I mean, it's like a Stanford prison experiment, but it's a real experiment where she's like taking notes and asking them questions and like, what are your side effects? And it's like she is very clinical.
I'm sort of loving it, and I'm at episode 4 the most in.
Yeah,
so
100%.
We've got 2 more episodes, and I'm really excited to see where we go and how this. You are right. I am curious to get back to. So we have Doris and Harry and Alma, and then Ursula.
Yeah,
and I think 2 episodes. I can see how it could.
Converge. Absolutely.
Dennis O'Hare's still kicking. He's doing cool. He's doing fine.
Just kind of love Dennis O'Hare.
Yeah, it's not a step too far.
No,
but it's also not really anything necessary yet. It's just window dressing, which he's a designer. But I think that's it. Do you have any?
No, I mean, if they can land these last 2 episodes, this will be my favorite season of American Horror Story.
I still think, well, actually, then, I was going to say Apocalypse, but remember we wasted 3 episodes of Apocalypse before it got good?
Yes, exactly. That's the thing is like, so far, I'll say that loudly, there has been no time wasted in this season.
Oh, we still got 2 episodes.
That's what I'm saying.
We've been burned before.
So far.
I wonder if the new people watching this can feel the like
I'm like grasping I'm like this on the edge of the cliff.
They seem at war with themselves over this.
Do they like this show? I love this show. For better and worse.
So, all right. Well, like, subscribe, check out,
pay money.
We're just gonna be like,
Gimme
my money. I have to buy anchovy.
Just keep putting in the like Mona Lisa Saperstein. Money, please.
Let us know what you think, and see you around.
Bye.